Good evening. Welcome to your Ass Hurts News Network. Coming to you live from the tip top of Cock Tower Square with your host, Sergeant Friday. Sarge, how you doing?
Cletus, I'm doing amazingly well considering the torture our government put me through today.
Yeah,
Setting that aside, I would have to say that life is awesome.
well, that's what you pay them money for, to put you through
Well,
hell.
since you're such a smart feller or fart smeller, one or the other. It doesn't matter to me.
Both at times, right? I mean, it depends
Well,
on what I had to eat.
so I was going to hold this joke in case truth came up, but I can always use it again. But I got a question for you. Okay,
All right, what you got?
what is a refrigerator and an asshole? What's the difference between a refrigerator and an asshole?
What?
The refrigerator don't fart when you pull the meat out of it.
uh,
Holy fuck.
well, that's that's fucking funny.
That's just, you
That's
know,
just fucking stupid, but it's funny.
here's another one I heard. Listen, this is kind of shocking. Now, we got squirrels up here. I don't know what you got down there, if you got squirrels or not.
Yeah.
Do you know that of all the nuts that they bury to get through the winter or the cold season, they only find 20% of them fucking things?
They only find 20% of the nuts that they bury to get through
Yeah,
the cold season. Hmm.
ain't that some shit?
That's yeah,
And literally, that's how trees are planted.
that makes sense.
The other 80%.
That makes sense. This
Wow.
coming from the agriculture desk.
The- But that is mind blowing. 20% of the nuts are all they're able to recover. And the other 80% just become trees.
Some of the funniest shit I've ever seen are nature videos where fucking, I forget what it was on. It was some Netflix series, and they were showing the life of fucking squirrels. And when those bastards bury the nuts, they're just like people. Somebody's coming along to take a little bit of what they got without being caught. It's the funniest shit in the world. Funniest
And
shit in the world.
I swear to God, they play with cars when they get out on the road.
I'm
I
with you
swear.
there. I'm with you.
It's like a conscious decision to just fuck with the motorist.
Yeah, let me just sit here as long as I can and see if I can make them fucking swerve. And if not, I'll jump just in time.
Yeah, I want to see if Lenny is right. Did they actually crash into stuff?
Yeah.
Right?
Fuck.
Squirrels having talks in the back room over there. Oh my God. Yeah, we got to get them little cams. Let them run around with their cameras on. We can see what the hell they're up to.
Right.
So, yeah, I wasn't able. I was going to put together a video for Chris and Katie today. I couldn't do it. Life overran me, ran my ass over.
Yeah.
And and so there was no time for that. And actually, the time to do it was real late in the day, and I didn't think that was a good thing to do. So stopped in. I saw 12 gauge. He had a panel today. He was up there. He had some people in there. Truly unique. A channel I've never been to before, but I'm going to check out. They seem to be like a pleasant couple, pleasant pair. I don't know their status if they're a couple. I think they are husband and wife, but I don't know.
Hmm. Who
You
was
know,
it?
I don't know who they are. I've never seen them before. I never heard of them. But Truly Unique is the name of the channel, so it's worth giving it a check. I mean,
Oh, Truly Unique is the name of the channel. I got you. Okay. Yeah, I've never
oh
heard of.
yeah, neither have I. So I think I'll check that out
Yeah.
and just see what there is to see, because you never know. Knowledge isn't it's a fickle bitch. It comes from places sometimes you don't expect. You know.
It's a fickle bitch.
Let's see here. Are we broadcasting across 3 networks? Let's see. Our technical director threatened to quit today,
Well,
and
yeah, he I mean, he's a fickle bitch.
that's our new word of the show is fickle. Okay, not to be mistaken for pickle,
Fickle.
but fickle.
Yeah.
101.3. Your fucking music you don't like. Fickle. Yeah.
Oh, damn it. I got a
What?
piece of I got it's I guess it could be from the health desk, but since she's preoccupied, I'll drop it. So
Oh, hang on. Wait a
okay.
minute. Let's see. We have breaking news from the help desk.
Did you know that the highest grade sex toy silicone comes from Germany?
It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
They're the ones that help build artificial tires, right? They're the ones that created synthetic oil.
Yeah.
They're the ones that created a lot of things, man. A lot of things. Some Germans over there are busy thinking. They're thinking deep.
Including the bug.
Yeah. Yeah. Really neat car. I can't believe how America took to that car, knowing that it came from a country that had just slaughtered, like, participated in a war that killed 50 to 100 million people.
And I've owned two. What the fuck does that say about me? Jesus Christ.
Well, I don't think he wants to talk about it.
No, I don't think
He
he
might
does.
be flicking you in the head a couple of times, one for each one of them.
Yeah, I may get a couple of flicks. Hopefully, not far enough to knock me down the hole. uh,
Oh my God. So tonight I wanted to topic knowledge and data and how to interact with it because I think, I think, I don't know. I think sometimes this is an uphill battle and the hill just people keep throwing dirt at the hill. It keeps getting bigger. Right? You see all the drama and the chaos and the nonsense and the real unnecessary conversations that take place across a lot of streams, and they attract thousands and thousands of viewers.
yeah,
And a stream based on anything that could be of any kind of benefit or help or understanding or facts based is it's like people are allergic to it. They've been completely conditioned and trained and brainwashed to just run away from learning anything. Kind of shocking.
yeah. I mean, it's I don't know. Every day I see more proof of my point that it's people have used the internet instead of for information. They've used it for an emotional release, like what television shows used to be back in the day. It's an escape.
Yeah, it's an escape. Like a drug is an escape, alcohol is an escape. Everything has got to be an escape. What are you escaping from? That's
Right.
my question. There's nothing really to escape from. This is the reality you live in, and you got to make the best of it. And to me, being informed is the best way to make the best of it. You know?
I agree. And using the information,
Yeah,
right?
using doing something with it. That's the big crippler right there. People gorge on data and gorge on fact, and then they just I don't know what they're doing, smelling their feet after. Or, I don't know what the fuck they're doing, but they don't really do anything with this information. They see all of this chaos going on in the world, not a peep out of anybody, not even an attempt to do anything to make a difference. So,
No, their attention span to information seems to be quite fickle.
and they do exactly opposite of what I've seen a lot of them saying here. We don't get involved in any of the drama, but the minute that anything comes up that's drama laden, those same people are in there, liking it, sharing it, being at home, which is fine. I mean, I get the entertainment value of it, but on true
Well,
crime, I don't find anything really too entertaining. Like we do some entertainment stuff. We say some shit, right? But not in relation to any of the serious matters that we're discussing, for the most part, right? If not completely.
no, but I mean, I can, knowing some, like they go and Truth and especially Clue, some creators, on what I would consider a more of a personal level. I do think there's a lot of validity in the emotional escape aspect of it, right? Because like a lot of times I'll get heated, and in some of her streams or Dagos or hell even in here, right? And I'll have an emotional outburst about something, and it's an outrage, right? And it's an emotional response to the information you have, and it's the only way to fight that is develop a self control to that, and it's tough. It's really tough to do.
Yeah, yeah. Nothing's easy. Nothing's easy. But if it was easy, if life were that easy, then what the hell would be the point of living?
Right.
These things that we deal with, like I'm dealing with my own issue with some agency that I just would like to throttle. But it is what it is. You got to cope with it somehow, you know,
That's right.
and then move on. There's other things to do. You know, got a business to run. I got a pool. I just got the solar heater situated, so I'm warming that baby up.
There you go.
And, you know, what do you think about how people do interact with knowledge or data? Do you think maybe that should be something that they teach kids when they're young? I think that would be an effective thing to do for youth.
I mean, I would, we've got a 18-year-old, and I know it wasn't very many years ago, maybe three, probably right before she started high school. She had had a cell phone for quite a while. They had been using computers in middle school. And the one thing that she used a cell phone or computer for the absolute least was searching for information. And I don't know, that stuck in my craw so damn bad, and it became a pet peeve of mine. And then about her sophomore year, they actually taught them that. And I'm like, now you're waiting until a kid is of driving age before you teach them how to even obtain information with the tool that created the information age. Yeah, so I'm in agreement. I feel like we're missing the mark with the youth and teaching them how to, number one, obtain knowledge, and number two, how to interact with it. Because if you're not teaching them until they're 16 how to even use it, in terms of use the tools to gain the knowledge, you damn sure aren't teaching them how to interact with it.
Well, the
And
other thing too is the nonsense they tell you have a smartphone, and so you become dependent upon a device that's got answers in it that they want you to believe. They want you to take as their answers, right?
right.
I mean, and that's something that a lot of folks don't consider. So when you look something up on Google, it isn't. There needs to be a course in how to search because there's two sides to every story, and yet, these programmable responses, regardless of the issue, are what's being done to people, and it's just
Would
and
you
people
say
they don't realize it.
would you say it's a fair statement to say that information and knowledge are two different things? Information is more the data, and the knowledge is more the experience with the data.
Say that again.
Information and knowledge would be two different things. Information is more the data, and knowledge is more the experience in relation to the data. Like, you can tell me 1 + 1 = 2, and I can accept that data, but until I take an apple and take another apple and realize, hey, here's one, now I have two, that data is just data, and I'm taking it for granted. Once I verify it, then it becomes knowledge that I've got and I've got a reference to.
Right, but 1 × 1 is 1. But when you take one person, one male, one female, and multiply, you end up with a child. There's three.
Right, but I'm talking about addition.
Yeah, no, but I'm just trying to point out that
Yeah.
you're not given that example in 1 × 1. You follow me? So my point is that there are other understandings or other points of reference to look at certain things, and yet when you look at data and knowledge today, you're given a very strict set of answers. So if you look up global warming, you're going to get the answers they want you to have. Not that they're fact based or not that they're anything close to the truth. And millions of people are going to be fed answers, and they're going to just walk off thinking they learned or know something. And if you did more review, and it really isn't that hard to do, but that's what I mean. That's why I think one of the biggest threats to mankind is this AI. There is no such thing. There is no capacity to build an artificial intelligent machine. It's just not possible with where we are in humanity's ability. So you're going to run around telling me it's an AI, but the real thing is it's an algorithm.
Right.
That's how they catch you out on Twitter and how they catch you out on YouTube and Facebook. It isn't somebody sitting at a desk reading everybody's tweets and everybody's posts. It's an algorithm searching for keywords.
Well, and I
So when
would say,
you ask a question, in that question, is global warming real? Right? So if you ask an AI that, I guarantee you it's going to come back and tell you, yeah. But then if you ask, was it warmer during the Roman period? It's also going to come back and tell you yes. If you ask it, did the last ice age end in 1850? It's also going to come back and tell you yes. But those three data points, okay, two of them contradict the main answer. It's global warming real. Well, you follow me? And now because I've said these words, we're in the algorithm will pick up and they'll analyze what I've said.
right, and
See?
there will be a correction message posted under this video tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll get another warning in my email or something, or a strike or something.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. No, it's an interesting topic for sure, right? And then especially when it comes to artificial intelligence, I have always found that to be such a it is a frightening concept because it's such a fraud.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's always ever since the first time I heard about it, it scared the shit out of me because I look around and I'm like it's a creation by intelligent people who don't know how to be intelligent as a whole, and they're going to design a machine that can be more intelligent than them. Negative. That doesn't work that way.
You know, some Terry Martin asked a good question, but I just want to point out to Terry Martin that cursive is kind of a unique thing that's Western, and the fact that kids are not being taught cursive anymore doesn't really bother me. I'm more interested in why they're being taught about sexual stuff at 5, 6, 7 years old. That worries me. But not as things change, as like there used to be Sumerian, a whole bunch of different languages. There were uh, languages that were standard around the world for like Spanish is a very very highly used language in Europe, in South America, and the Americas. Things change, and I don't have any issue with that, or I don't see a downside to us getting away from cursive. And that doesn't even include me weighing my bias against it. I hated writing and still do.
Well, and I think the only risk to it, right, is like you mentioned Sumerian. I mean, there's a lot of ancient languages that basically we only know what we know, that in terms of what written documents and things from ancient languages actually say because of somebody's interpretation. So to Terry's point, it is a language form that could be lost, but in the age that we're in with the internet, as long as we don't self-destruct, there should be no reason at all for it to ever be lost. So I'm with you. I don't really see an issue with it personally.
I would much rather. I mean, the age of childhood is so important. That's why I get so defensive, and I'm ready to lay my life down to protect someone's childhood. That's the formative things that happen in your childhood are what actually. And if you knew this as a child, and you had the capacity to reason it, like what Tucker. Remember, I put Tucker's statements up here yesterday. My
Right.
ex-wife had a contentious relationship with her father. I had a contentious relationship with my mother. We should never have been together. I mean, it turned into a anyway. We just should. There's validity to people to the point that what happens in your youth affects you for the rest of your life. There's
Oh
fact,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if had I have known that in the beginning, had I have known that all them years ago when I was dating women, any woman that had a serious issue with her father wouldn't have been a woman I would have considered dating. I would still explored it, but knowing that there's got to be red flags associated to that.
Right.
So I got this knowledge late in life, but I can tell you through living my life that there's absolute factual. My life actually was affected by it, and until Tucker said what he said in that Tory book, like kind of was attacking him for it, I can relate to what Tucker's saying. I think it's real, and I think it's harder. They say pull your pants up by the bootstraps, but it's hard when you're raised and you're the loser, you're the no good, you're the one. Um, that does affect you. Is all I'm saying. What happens to you if you're molested or if you're beat, if you're it affects you for the rest of your life. And the problem is you're not aware of that as your life is progressing. Right? You
Right.
don't see the effect. You're not told that there's an effect. You're not told what the effect may or may not be, and you just don't. You're not aware. And so, why this stuff isn't shared with people more openly and more commonly. I think more and more. I think two things would happen. One, people that are fucked up from the floor up from when they're little, like me, may have a better shot at life. But two, I think more people will give different consideration to parenting. Right?
No, I don't disagree with that at all. I don't disagree with that at all. And I think, I don't know, as you talked about that, the concept of maturity came to mind, right? And it's like a lot of things you were referring to, I would consider grouping them into a certain, or grouping it into a certain maturity level, or into various maturity levels. But I don't know. I don't know how I exactly feel about that. But like you were talking about just then, people may make different decisions about having children,
Right.
and I think maturity level does dictate that to a certain degree. Like a lot of
Well,
people will want to have a kid when they're younger because it's this dream in their head that that's what they want, right? And then they have the kid, and then they realize that they didn't think a fucking thing about having a kid other than the dream that they had of having a child.
right.
And a lot of people would, in fact, probably make a different choice if they thought about it more, and actually weighed out the pros and cons, especially when in terms of choosing the partner to have the child with.
Now, I'm going to get someone mad at me, right?
All right.
And I'm not going to, anything I'm saying right now is not to cause anybody any agony or anger or whatever, displeasure, but it's got to be said. If cursive writing is that important, you should have taught your child yourself or attempted to, right? So my child was in court. His attorney wrote him an important message in cursive, and he couldn't read it. I don't know. Again, if that's important, if you for you personally, I don't care if society accepts it or agrees with it or not. That was something you may have spent time doing, and this is one of the problems that we've run into in America is we expect people in positions that are labeled teacher, right,
Yeah.
professor, policeman, fireman. We expect, and we're given this image or idea that these people are doing a certain thing, and unfortunately, in many instances, they're not. While they're supposed to be, why they should be learning, for example, cursive writing, they're being told about their gender could be anything they want it to be, and they're 8 years old. This kid don't even know what gender is. What do you mean gender? I'm a little boy. No, no, no. You could be a girl. You could be a. That shouldn't be in your schools. No different than when they say any specific religion shouldn't be in school. I don't have an objection to that. They shouldn't be teaching different religions or religion at all in school. That's for the parents, and that's for the parents' faith and for wherever they worship at, right?
Hmm.
But cursive writing and math and mathematics and science and other things, those are what we would want our schools to be focused on, not social issues, not moral issues. Those should not be, other than don't steal and don't lie. The basic moral understanding of how to interact, I have no objection to, but choices that'll affect their life forever, especially when they're young, and you start getting them confused about gender, that you might as well just molest the kid because that's what happens to people that are molested, especially if they're molested by the same gender. And that to me is egregious. It's filthy, it's wrong, and there's a time and a place for everything. And 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, that's just not the place for that conversation. I'm more offended by that than the fact that they don't teach cursive. And something like cursive, or even this that's the other thing too, is people don't want to take their children off their side and have these serious conversations. If gender does come up and it comes across your child's anything they say to you, then that's the time you need to sit down and give them the understanding you have on it. I mean, the
Well, and
reality.
that,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
no.
I was just going to say that, looking back on 2020 and everything that arose from that, in terms of the vid, right? And if you take, which I know it's a big thing, but if you take the negative that came from that and look at the opportunity that was created there, I was fortunate enough to be in a position to where I really got I was already kind of living that lifestyle anyway, but I really got to see the other side of the coin, being forced into that lifestyle and the rejection to that lifestyle. And I really thought a lot about that. And I'm like, a lot of people missed the mark on this, instead of seeing that forced to be at home with each other instead of seeing that as a punishment, an undue punishment or restriction. A lot of people missed the mark in seeing the opportunity that was there to do exactly like what Terry's talking about, right? That was an opportunity for people to really hone in on their family, and focus on things, sharing the information and the knowledge that they have with the generations that are coming up. But I think a lot of people spend a lot of time being upset and distraught and depressed about having to stay home. And I get it, right? But I'm not attacking or picking on anybody, but I do think it's something people should consider, because it was really eye opening to me, because I, not long before that, I had been in that same mode as well, where I would have been the same way. But since I was already conditioned to be an at home person, it was no big deal for me. But I watched all the just pissed offness and panic and frustration everybody had, and I'm like, yeah, y'all are missing the opportunity that's presented itself here.
Yeah, and the catch-22 for a lot of us is that we don't separate knowledge and information, or knowledge and data. We don't separate it from our emotions, and we've been taught to come to a conclusion and then believe it. And then when that topic comes up, there's no real ability to discuss it because you believe what you believe,
Yeah,
and you're just not going to get people off of that belief. That's the horrible thing about belief when it's applied to man's knowledge. It creates a lot of disagreement, a lot of argument, not because you're arguing facts. In fact, that's the problem. You're not arguing facts. You're arguing what you believe. And I don't want to change your religion, bro. I just want to have a conversation about facts. And
right.
really, when you're dealing with things like crime and politics, there's massive amounts of facts in there. And those are what you need to focus on. And if you want to have a conversation of personal opinion, that's fine, but don't make that opinion entrench yourself into a belief that you become unable to deal with more with new data, or understandings of existing data aren't quite what you think. I mean, you have to be open to that. And the only way to be that way is to not believe in any of the stuff that you're absorbing. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Let me see what she says. Same kid went from trying to suicide to getting his GED, working at a grocery store, dishwasher, caretaker of kids down there. I love that kid. I don't know who that is, but awesome. People are asking me some advice, and I'm not always the best one to give advice. I give it like in general, but specific advice. I do know the best thing that happened to me was being thrown out. It forced me to interact with people I otherwise would never have interacted with. I'm not saying throw your kid out though. That's an extreme, that's an extreme solution. And I promise you, they didn't throw me out to better me. I'm pretty sure that wasn't on that. Sure, they didn't think of that one. But yeah, social interaction. So if you've got a child that's more of a I don't know what you would say, introverted. It doesn't hurt to start getting them active in extroverted events. Get them involved in sports. Get them involved in different clubs. Get them involved in places where they have to work with others, and places that they can find enjoyment in. Is the best thing to do, and then go from there, right? So if they want to play video games, it wouldn't hurt if you knew a few parents that wouldn't mind getting together while your kids play video games in the other room. Right? So put them inside the social interaction, even with things that are generally non-social, non-contact social environments. And video games are one of the key ones where kids are isolated from each other, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you could start a video game club. You could a whole bunch of things you can do that to get your child that's reluctant to become accepting of it, or at least able to deal in those environments, because that's ultimately what ends up happening in life. You got to deal, man. You got to cope. Let's see, where were we here? What else you got? Anything from our help desk is disabled. Our queen of moderation is, I I don't know.
She's giving our technical director a what for tonight, so she's having an in-depth conversation with him.
Well, I feel terrible for our technical director. I mean, it's, the fact that he's third world. He was really upset about his wages, and I told him there's just nothing I can do about it. It would be against his country's religion to give him more money. So he understood.
Well, I think I am going to work on getting him a more flexible straw to blow the tires up with.
Yeah, that might help. I might want to give him a longer one so maybe he could sit in a chair and relax while he's doing that.
Hey, you know what? That's a really good
But
idea.
but I was thinking more in the lines of like a big rock that he moves over towards the truck and sits on, or a used crate or something. I don't want to be, because if you give him a chair that's worth more than his wages, that's really going to that's going to cause more conversation. You know.
Well, this Doodlebug's comment on the screen is a good one for you to answer because I'd be curious to hear your answer to that. I know what my answer
What's
to
that?
that would be. The one you got on the screen, where she was asking for advice about the kid that's extremely literal, and she's explaining what she meant.
And children are offended easily. Well, best thing about being offended is it don't hurt. I still let them loose, man. Oh, you're offended? I offended you? Well, should we call the police? Does it hurt? Where is it causing it? Is it blood loss associated with you being offended? What kind of physical damage are you suffering from being offended?
Well, and
I mean,
that's I did. It was a question to you, but I think back to when I was a kid, and hell, even now. I mean, quite frankly, I've always associated with people that have a tendency to piss people off.
you're a sightseer, motherfucker.
And well, I mean, I'm kind of that way myself, right? When provoked, I'm definitely very pointed. But yeah, I mean, from my point of view, I would say teach them how to find a better class of people that's not offended as easily, and not worry about quantity but quality of people to socialize with.
All right, well, anyways, let me just say that that literal guy is going to become the most witty guy in the class, and he'll become accepted by his peers.
Yeah,
I mean,
everybody will want to be him.
you want him to be him, and that's the best thing you can promote, even if him is awkward and different than others. You don't want to make him like everybody else. That's one of the ills of society. I think we force upon people. Now you got to have manners, and you got to be those things I accept. But as far as who you are personality wise and how you interact with people, that's you, and I would promote who he is. Excuse me. I was always called to know it all. That's one of the things my stepmother hated, and I think that's because I was probably much smarter than her when I was 6.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. They
fuck.
used to yell at me for reading books. I ferociously read books when I was young. Yeah, yeah, and it was also a way to avoid having to interact with them because they were just really nonsense. Yeah, I had a confusing childhood, and listen, I know, like what you're saying about your kid. I'm sure my step parents asked themselves more than once, "What do we get ourselves into here? Is it worth it? It's just one kid. Is it even worth? Just one kid. There's billions of people on Earth. Is it worth it?" I, and I look, I don't blame them for that. Oh shit, because I don't know. It's just the way it is, man. But yeah, let the boy be the boy, and things will work out. And, and in the end, what do you have in the end, Clears? How many friends do you really have? Honestly,
um, about 3.
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean,
and
that's
it's
all
been
you really need in life. Just a
yeah,
handful of friends, right?
yeah.
And then fuck everybody else. They can go f themselves. Look at that. I even didn't say the word fuck. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you
Great.
filtered yourself until you explained what you filtered yourself about. How about that?
Somebody look at it, and the stream that I said to Steve Gonzalez, someone's asking me. So they put the question to me about, so why did he go upstairs if he didn't need to go upstairs? And I said, that's a question you need to ask Steve G. I never said it, and it's not a question I can answer. What's wrong with people, Cletus? Do the people not know me enough to know that just stupid fucking questions are just not tolerable by me?
Well,
That's
I think it's a curiosity question, right? That ultimately
well, how do
leads
I
to.
answer that though?
Well, I mean, there is no answer to it at this time, right?
You-
We don't have information that gives us that answer, and I suspect Steve doesn't either. In all fairness, I mean, I see a lot of things he's done, and I'm not faulting him, but a lot of things he's done and said have come from an emotional place. Even though he presents himself in a very mature way most of the times, a lot of the shit he says has come from an emotional place, and I think some of it has probably been based on shit that was told to him that's unverified,
Well,
and it very well may
he's in a
be
unique
that he.
position too. He's suffering under the duress of an unknown agony that none of us can relate to, and hopefully none of us ever do, right?
Right.
And I think the longer this goes on, the worse it is for the parents. They become part of that Helsinki syndrome? What
Uh,
do they call that?
I think you're right. Actually, I think that is what that is.
Say that again, because it's a pretty common thing. What did you say?
I said I think you're right.
There you go, folks. You heard it from Cletus. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what happens to parents caught up in the legal system on cases that are so horrific that you become dependent upon these people that are trying to, they're doing the right thing. They're trying to get things in justice and give you an answer to what happened to your child. And you become wrapped up and involved in there, and your hopes are with them. And so you're in a very, very susceptible place where um it's difficult to step outside of that emotional box. You're trapped in a sense. And I think Steve and others, I think even the other parents are caught in that, and I can't see how they cannot be. And look, I'm sure I'm not a very warmly welcomed person to Steve, and I was as respectful as I can be with what I had said, but those are facts that are researchable and knowable and true, based based on them actually being presented to us, right?
Right.
And so I'm not trying to offend the guy or hurt the guy, but I think it's the same thing when you talk about Seth Rogers. There's nobody on the other side trying to point out other things that he could be doing, things that he shouldn't be doing. People are just continually embroiling him in that, and he's willing to go into that area and be part of the embroilment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he hires people that continue that nonsense, and so who's out there trying to tell the guy cut it out? Move on. Get back to looking for your kid. Stay away from a microphone or a video camera, or stay away from anybody with a cell phone. Let's start with that. It's not going to be easy, but you'll be benefited. You'll be better off for it.
Yeah.
No.
No, I mean, I think I think your message to Seth, like I said last night, I think it showed the fact that it was such a unique message on this platform specifically. I haven't really paid attention to any others, but just from the other things I've heard said, it was such a unique message. It shows the lack of true advocacy that exists. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I do have a desire to advocate for them, and I understand. And many of us, I'm not the only guy that's gone through a contentious divorce and wanted to, carry that anger with me for years. Some guys go to their grave with it. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the ex-wife of Chris. How is she going to shed that? Right, Nina. How is she going to get past this? It's not just related to men. It's the emotions can really knock you the hell out, man. They run you over and they'll laugh and they'll back over you and run you over and back over you and run you over. It's insane. And that insanity, somebody you need someone strong enough to have some conscious idea of what right and wrong is, and to be strong enough to point it out to you and ask you to, you got to hold my hand, walk this way. Let's change directions. And you know, that's why I've said when I went into recovery from drug addiction, I refuse to get involved with counselors that suffered from past addictions. I don't want to relate. I don't want you to be able to relate to me. I mean, everybody I've related to has been a drug addict already. Now I want a drug addict for a counselor? Get the fuck out of here. Give me somebody that's got a decent past, a good family, came from a good parents, don't have any issues with, they lived the life that they lived. They were raised as best as they could. They made good choices. And I think I've developed into that kind of a person, even though I can be an outrageous son of a bitch, which is it's just a part of my makeup. But I think making that decision and sticking to that decision benefited me, because I can tell you that almost nobody that went through that rehab maintained. 30 years. I've been without dependency on any drug.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I think a lot of addicts are very clever, intelligent people. In all fairness, I mean, not all of them. Some of them are,
No, I'd say that's a fair statement for sure. For sure.
and they're caught up in a system that really doesn't make sense. Like what I went through, what I've been going through, and you're privy to the exact reason. It's nonsensical to have to go through what I'm going through. Right? It's
Yeah.
an honest mistake. It's a simple. There should be maybe some paperwork to fill out, and it should be the end of it. And no, it's costing me 20 hours of being on hold and hung up 25,000 times. Not that many, but hung up constantly, and call back, and you have to start from the beginning. It's like you never called before. You got to tell them the story again. Then they decide they can't help you. They got to transfer you. When you tried telling them that when they picked up the phone, they would accept that. And then when you tell them the story, they're like, "Oh, sorry, I put you through that. Let me transfer you." Then you get transferred. You get stuck on hold, and you get hung up on. The phone disconnects, and you go through that over and over and over. It's like Groundhog Day. It's horrific, bro. But I don't want to blow up. It's not really their fault. It's their phone exchange is an issue. But I don't know. It's so life can be, even when your life is as awesome as mine, there can be some bumps in the road. Right? I was supposed to hang out with a girl a little bit later after the stream, and I canceled it, man. I'm exhausted from all that phone being on hold and all the anxiety associated with it.
You're exhausted from doing absolutely nothing but being frustrated with the fact that you couldn't get anything done.
And the effort I put in was, I should have been able to till a 40-acre field. The amount of time I invested, I could have taken care of back 40. And I didn't even get out my front door. I'm carrying this phone around. You don't want the headset on because now you got their stupid music playing in their ear, totally blank. There's either nothing there, and then you forget you're on hold, right?
So that scenario you just went through, I think is a good example toward the topic for this stream, right? So now you've got the knowledge about what you went through today and what impact it had, right? And I think it's fair to say that you've got the knowledge of how you could handle it better. But then the real question comes: will you apply that knowledge tomorrow when you call and you get hung up on for another 3.5, 4 hours?
Right.
Maybe you should go till a field while you're on hold.
I was thinking I did that on a couple of the calls. I went out, I messed around with the pool, and I got a delivery of stuff for the business. And I put that away, and so I actually did dishes. I mean, it's to try to distract myself while that stupid phone is playing stupid music no one wants to hear.
Right.
And so you try to continue on, but I needed to get to a job site unless I want to carry all these documents with me and then try sorting through them in the truck. But that would probably only happen because they would only answer the phone when I was talking to somebody about something they needed to talk to me about, right?
Right.
Oh yeah. So I'm going to start using email. My experience has shown to me that it may be possible because emails were, I have no problem waiting on an email. Then I lost one. I've got a business credit card with a decent purchasing amount of power with it, and I don't know what I did with it. So I had to call that in lost. I've been going crazy looking for it. It's the second time I've lost it in the last couple of months.
I bet you weren't on hold 4 hours reporting it lost, were you?
No. Oh no. I did that.
Hell no, because they want you to get a new one so you can spend.
Yeah, let's see what this is. Pretty one. The store owners wouldn't wait on her when she was stressed bad. And the next day she spent a ton of money at another store and went back to the first store. Mistake, big mistake. Yeah, that was funny and Pretty Woman. I get that. Yeah, data and knowledge is an interesting thing because if you get emotionally embroiled in it, you've lost all your chances of reasoning, and you've really lost your chance to soundly discuss the topic that you've got that information on. Politics is a great example of that, where you see that in all of these things where people get emotionally involved. And I'll use Black Lives Matter. Their message is accurate that the corruption is endemic to the system, but their way of going about it, and they're not ever really explaining to people what that means. Have you ever heard that statement from them, Cletus?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Have they ever sat down and explained to anybody what the fuck that means?
Not that I've ever heard, no. And I've actually
And
been to their website before, looking at their philosophies, and it's not there.
And it's not even a philosophy; it's a true fact. It is endemic in the system. When you're working with others, and those others are setting an example for you, and those examples are bad examples, like and I don't, I'm not trying to attack Detective John, but when asked the question, if in a very important case your partner makes a mistake, what do you do? And his first response, it depends on how big the mistake is.
Right.
Wrong, bro. Wrong. That mistake needs to be reported, regardless of the consequences, right?
That's right.
And so it's that his reaction was trained into him. That's the source of endemic corruption, and it's more prevalent and does more damage than the cop stealing drug money, than the cop snitching, protecting a drug dealer. Although that does do damage, more damage is done to everyday citizens by the police's endemic training that comes from working with the people around them.
Yeah, I mean, the
Right?
guy that does the bad act is only successful if he's supported by people that allow for it.
Or they'll turn their head, look the other way, or they'll pretend
Right.
they don't know what happened, or they don't want to know. Or, but if you're in an investigation of an important investigation and your partner makes a mistake with the evidence, that needs to be brought forward.
Well, and I mean, to your point, right? It's not really so much that somebody that would turn the other cheek. No, it's not that they don't know that it's wrong. It's that they have an emotional response to the situation. Well, that's my brother in arms or what have you, right? So let me support them because of our allegiance instead of supporting what's right and banishing what's wrong.
Right. And the bottom line is that even if the systems are also set up where if it becomes known, they keep it internal, and
Mm-hmm.
that just shouldn't be. Right. I
Yeah.
mean, you mean to tell me that cops don't forget procedure or skip procedure or violate procedure? Of course they do. Does it now? If the person's crime, you're going to say, well, the crime is so heinous. Does this really matter? Well, yeah, yeah. If you have a true justice system, it absolutely does. I mean, I don't want my airplane pilot to make an egregious act like that or a mistake like that, and not say anything to anybody, and the plane starts to fall out of the sky. Right? Because what starts as a small mistake can snowball. And there's nothing wrong with making a mistake. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. Right?
Yeah.
So that somehow we've taught ourselves that these are bad things. Um, it's
It's like we've developed a false sense of pride or a sense of pride for the wrong reasons. Because that could
right.
be I would say another reason for it, right? Is pride. Like you said, it's okay to be wrong. Well, a lot of people won't accept being wrong because pride gets in the way.
Right. Or other things. If it isn't pride, it's profit, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it isn't pride, it's lust. If it isn't pride, it's greed. If it isn't, there's millions of motives, but the idea that a policeman in the process of and the doing his duty makes a mistake that could you don't know if it'll affect the crime, but makes a mistake that needs to be reported. Your job is to report it, even if you're his partner. And he should understand that he should self-report. You know what I mean? I mean, you
Yeah.
should take responsibility for your acts, and whatever the outcome is, the outcome is. I think early on, Steve Gonzalez had made that statement. That I'm a
Yeah.
man and I'm out here saying things, and if I say things it's that and there's a problem and there's a penalty for it, I'm willing to take the penalty, right?
Yeah.
And he's saying that to the prosecution, to the state. I'm positive he's aware of mistakes that were made, and he's been aware of them for quite some time. I don't suspect he sees his mistakes as of significance that would cause an end to the case, but I think he's pretty much on it, in the know about it. If that makes
I
sense.
maybe. I mean that at the end of the day, that's speculation, right? We can only assume that he is. But I also suspect that a lot of the information he has is not direct information, but second and third hand.
That's possible, sure. His statement
Because
was pretty clear, though. He did point to the state or the prosecution, and told them if you made mistakes or for whatever the mistakes are, you need to own up to them. Be a man and own up to them, and let the cards fall where they may. He was pretty
right.
pointed in that statement, if you remember it.
No, I
So from
do.
his perspective, it was real. I don't. You're right. There's no. Other than his statement, which I thought was said in a way that made it that gave it sincerity. Is it fact? I don't know.
Right.
So you're right with that, but I think the sincerity and the direction of his comment, to me, there has to be some underlying meaning for him to come out of the blue with that.
I do think it's highly likely. Right. I just can't consider it as fact because I do think there is the potential for emotion to have clouded his judgment on information he received.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. That's what I said at the beginning, right? They're caught in that Helsinki syndrome. This guy has to be the doer. This guy has to be found guilty. This guy has to be served justice because that's all they have, right?
Yeah.
There's only one well in town, where everybody's going to get their water, and you're all counting on it. And God forbid the day comes and sand is coming up out of the damn thing, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. And you don't want that day ever to show up. And that unfortunately is the situation those families are in. Look, and I always hope that they find the proper person and they do the proper engagement with justice. But that's not always the case. I myself have committed crimes and beat them in court and then sued them for it and won. So, justice, folks, isn't what everybody expects it to be. It's not perfect. But when justice isn't the rules of it by the people that are to enforce it, if they don't follow those rules, like even speeding tickets, a cop going 75 in the 40 is unacceptable. And he shouldn't be doing it, but he does. Right?
Well, we've allowed it to become a sliding scale.
Right. And that's,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good statement. That was very clever. No, I mean, I'm down with that one. That's a good one. I'm going to adopt that somewhere down the road. Watch.
Yeah, every once in a while. Every once in a while, I'll come off with a good one.
I'll act like it's my own.
There you go. That's the way you should.
Well, if you took that sliding scale way of thinking and tightened it up a little bit, we could probably have more conversations. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the catch with data and knowledge. How people have been not taught how to interact with it, how to deal with it, how to be able to discuss it, because that's the key. The key is to be able to discuss it, and it doesn't always mean you're going to walk away in agreement, but you should be able to walk away, and each person should have a different idea or perspective that they didn't have before the conversation took place.
Yeah.
Right. Whether you agree with it, like it, dislike it, doesn't matter. But you would have that particular point of view or perspective or idea or thought. I really, I'm really fed up with woulda, coulda, shouldas, man. I just can't take it anymore. If you did this, well, then shut the fuck up, okay? Right? If I fucked your mother, I'd be your dad. What the fuck, man? Come on now. Really? I mean, that people think is an intelligent conversation. I mean, that to me shows a complete lack of common sense, and it's so prevalent throughout society that it almost seems irreparable. For the ifs, bro. Right?
Well, it's the building blocks of the choose your own adventure book in whatever situation you're talking about, right?
Right. I don't know. And it's a shame that we have this power to communicate like this, and this power for us to come to understandings on issues that we're being told are issues. There's much worse issues than a couple of points of degree in temperature rising. When you got 40 million slaves mining the metals that you need to work on to use the phone, to use this very computer and internet. The issue is the 40 million slaves, not the internet and phones. That's an issue, and that never gets any attention. And so, are we pro? Does that mean Americans are pro-slavery? Certainly, it does. You've said nothing or done nothing to object to that knowledge. And where are the conversations? Where are the streams and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Right. 300,000 kids and women go missing from the border that are trying to cross over legally or otherwise. Forget their status. Forget all of that. 300,000 plus men and children go missing. Where's that conversation? That should be the conversation about immigration, not whether the guy's legal or illegal. Okay. The reason to limit your immigration and to control it is so that this doesn't happen to 300,000 women and children. That's the whole point of having rules, right? I mean, for fuck's sakes, man. That's a conversation that we should be engaged in. Yet we all know that this is happening, but none of us talk about it. None of us try to seek solutions. None of us act with that information. We kind of ignore it and get into the debate about, look how much money illegals get every month. They're paying to fly them around the country. Blah, 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 blah. Shut the fuck up. That's a problem, no doubt. But that you're not going to solve that problem unless you solve the originating point to the problem, right? And there's so many facts that make your originating point a problem that needs to be solved. I think that's an incredible amount of people, 300,000 women and children, right?
Yeah.
And that in and of itself should be the only reason why you would want to regulate that border and block people from just walking across like that. You don't need any other reason. That's enough. 40 million slaves. That's enough reason for start demanding these cobalt mines get handled differently. And countries that are doing that to their citizens, those countries should be put up. They should be put up in the limelight. Even us, we should be shamed for allowing it to happen. I mean, that's part of what I'm trying to point out here. We should be ashamed of ourselves as Americans who claim to have conquered slavery, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we turn a blind eye to the same colored people that it's still happening to. It's fucked up, man. What say you there, Cletus? Oh wait, it's fucked up, Cletus.
What, Cletus is the it that's fucked up, or you're just handing it over to me?
This is a funny comment. This Terry. Again, I don't mean to pick on you, but this comment is so wrong that it could almost take a whole show.
Well, let me maybe I can address it quickly. So, AI's ability to not to think with emotion. We'll just take that piece of the statement because that's where the problem lies, right? AI doesn't think, and that's the misconception that's been created through media, through movies, through whatever, right? However it's been created, it's been created. It's the brainwashing that's been allowed to happen. AI doesn't think. It simply takes a process, an if and an and, or an if and an or statement, and it evaluates inputs based on rules that it was given by a human.
Right.
So it doesn't think at all. It just processes inputs and produces an output. It's not intelligent at all. It's strictly artificial. It's like the word artificial or the term artificial intelligence is actually true. It's fake, right? It's artificial. It doesn't exist. It's
It
a
isn't intelligence.
right. It's a name that was given that I think was very clever. I don't know what the intent of it was,
The
but it
intent
was a
is to
very
convince
clever.
people. Listen, it's another attempt at taking your power away from you, so that you no longer are going to need to think about things. You just ask the computer; it'll tell you the answer. But that answer is given by another human,
Well,
and
and I
that
think a
answer
really
is also controlled by what the people that actually give the AI answers. Their answer is controlled by what they want you to view it, the world as.
well, and I think a really good analogy you use a lot is the smartphone, right? That phone's dumb as fuck. That phone can't do shit unless
Nope.
you, as a human, take hold of it and make it do something. AI is the same way. AI is just a computer. It's a computer that has a program that you wrote and input into it. So it's only capable of being as intelligent as you are at its best.
And you're given a very limited data set. So you ask an AI, how does a toaster work? And it doesn't know. It doesn't make a better toaster. It just looks up on the internet how a toaster works and it tells you. The algorithms that float around looking for things that connect the toaster manufacturing. When you ask it about global warming, I love this is the best example. It will confirm and tell you that it's true. But if you then ask it key questions that are historically accurate, how could we be in a cycle of warming when the last ice age ended in 1850? Do you mean to tell me that at the end of 1850 and 1851, the world returned right back to the temperature it was? No, you know it doesn't work that way. You don't take ice out of the freezer in a minute and seconds later it's liquid. There's a process of time that has to. And when you're talking about global temperatures being altered by a mini ice age, that has to take time to correct. When you know that the time during the Roman era, from 1300 back, it was way warmer than it is now. And they didn't have any industrialized society. They were still horses and chariots and up the not quite the buggies at that point, maybe getting there, but we were dependent upon animals for not just our food, but for our work and for our travel. So how
And
do you
if
explain those warmer temperatures back before the year 1300 than it is today?
and if we're
And it's just a
foolishly
cycle. Right.
if we're foolish enough to blindly believe the information that's given us, how can we expect artificial intelligence to be any better, right? And that's been my whole point with it ever since I first heard about it. it can be no better than us, and we are horrible at handling information and knowledge, right? If we can't handle it ourselves, how the hell can it?
Right.
So at the end of the day, AI gives you.
Yeah, that's awesome. He hung up on himself. I did not do that to him. I think I cause a nervousness amongst the people that are on the panel. They're all waiting for the hammer to drop, and so they're always trying to race me to the end. Oh man, good old Cletus. It isn't intelligence. A 6-year-old can go to a library and read something from the book, read a book, and then use the application of that information in many different ways that include many things that have nothing to do with what he read. Okay, so he can go to a library and read that a hammer drives nails and pulls nails, but then he can also take that same hammer and use it as a lever. He can use that hammer to remove a tire from a car rim. You see, that's intelligence, folks. The ability to take information and then apply that information in circumstances that do not conform to what you were told about it. You were told it's meant to drive nails. Okay. And intelligence then gives you the ability to say, now, if we had artificial intelligence, why don't we have a cure for cancer? Where's the cure for cancer? The only thing that we have are computers with algorithms that'll regurgitate the information that's available to it. And the information that's available to it are by the programmers and their personal direction or thoughts or ideas that they want you to walk away with. All right. So when you look up gender, and AI is going to tell you, yes, genders are malleable. Yes. And we know that that's a discussion that should be had, and that it may not be completely agreeable that you should be picking these things as a young child. As an adult or a young adult, that's fine. But as a young child, these answers are pre-programmed, and the motive behind the answer is generally driven by people that have an agenda. That's the danger with that's what this technology has been used against us to do. And that's why I keep saying to people, we can use this technology and do something completely different with it that would affect those idiots, those morons, those haters that have conditioned us to see the world we see it. We can get together as a group and direct our thoughts and direct our actions in a very nonviolent way and make significant changes in the world. Start demanding these companies no longer allow for slavery in these mines. And that if there is slavery, it is their responsibility. And I'm happy to pay more for something. Okay. So long as just think about that. They're charging you a premium price for an Apple phone. Let's say they're $1,200. And they're using slavery to mine the materials in Chinese labor at $1.60 an hour. Labor at $1.60 an hour that they had to attach chain link fence to the building because workers were forced to work such long hours they were jumping off the building and committing suicide. So they had to put suicide prevention devices on the side of the building. That's where your phone's made. How is that okay with us? It does, and that's what I mean. Intel isn't going to do anything because none of us are telling Intel not to. And so the world is no longer run by the general consensus of the population. There is no room for that because we don't even try to input ourselves into that. The decisions and the information is fed down to us through almost a chain of command. The media responds to it. Okay. And then that's the data that you hear on the news while you're cooking dinner for your kids, or you're coming home from work, or you're cutting the lawn and you're coming in the house, and whatever the fuck it is. And that's the hole we got ourselves into. But the same technology that was used to dig that hole can dig a hole for them. And our hole can be filled in with the dirt we're digging their hole with. You see? That's the only reason I got back on social media. Social media, that's why I'm so critical of the 5.62 billion fucking morons out there. We have the device, we have the knowledge, we have the ability to change the world. And what do we do with this fucking thing? Nothing of value. We let it control us. Not understanding if 5 million people said to Intel, we're not buying your next phone unless you put an end to that. If 5 million people said to Twitter, 10 million people, 20, 100 million, 500 million people globally said to X, change your user agreement, bro, or we're not going to come back. We have the power to change the world in ways that is just incomprehensible. But yet, Not a single person that listens to this, and I don't care if only one person listens to this, nobody can disagree with the common sense that I'm sharing. There isn't any way to disagree with what I'm sharing with you. So, anyhow, folks, I'm glad you came in. I know sometimes I get into these rants. It sounds like I'm preaching, but maybe a little preaching is what we need as people. And maybe it does have to come from unlikely places, like some fucking screwball named Sergeant Friday. Okay, maybe that is the place where this information needs to be brought forward. And learn how to know where and how to go. I don't know what Terry and Doodle are talking about, but I hope it produces fruit. It bears fruit. I want to thank all of you for coming in tonight. Your Ass Hurts News Network will be back again tomorrow night at 9. And until then, I wish you all good night.